Welcome back to the Bluegrass on this beautiful August afternoon. I'm out with Willow and Minnie and Norman. Now listen, this whole video you're probably going to hear a bunch of barking because Norman is a Bulgarian Karachikon and they're livestock guardian dogs, and pretty much what they do is they sit around and bark at what they perceive to be evildoers. And Norman is here to learn that not everybody in the world is an evildoer. Okay, the subject of this video though is Minnie, because we're going to talk about how valuable it is to do a cursory physical examination before you start thinking about how you're going to address behavioral issues, right? So when dogs first come here to hang out with me, their owners come in, their owners work with a bunch of the dogs, and I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the dogs and watching them run around with the mentor dogs, watching them interact with the other people that are here, and I'm kind of getting an idea of like how they're going to fit in, what's their personality like, you know, what are the physical characteristics like, and so right off the bat I noticed that this dog, she's really nice. She just kind of piled right in with the rest of the dogs and started playing and having a good time. But every so often she would stop and start pawing at the base of her ear. So that kind of gave me an idea for this video. This kind of stuff is probably going on with your dogs, but you're not noticing. So if you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm always putting these dogs up here and doing what we call a cursory physical examination, right? I put them on the table, I look in their ears, I look at their eyes, I look at their teeth, spine, privates, belly, chest, joints, and toes. But today I'm going to kind of give you a little bit more detail as to why I do it that way. All right, so first off, let's think about what I said. She's kind of pawing at her ears. So I'm going to put her up here and I look at her ears. And first thing I noticed is that she has kind of a buildup in her ear. Well, guess what that leads to? That leads to ear infections, right? Well, I mean, ear infections are definitely something that interferes with the learning process. So that goes on my list of things to do with this dog every day. I'm going to clean her ears every day that she's here for training. The second thing, I looked at her eyes. Now, when I look at her eyes, you can't hardly see them right now, but Minnie has like really bright, kind eyes. The kind of eyes that let you know that she has a gentle soul. And I don't know how else to put it, but that's just the best way that I can think of to describe it. It's just some dogs, you can look at them and you just know that they just have a kind, gentle soul, right? But the problem is that Minnie has hair that's kind of grown up in front of her eyes and it's impeding her vision. Okay, so that's the second thing going to go on my list, right? Because if your ear hurts, you're not going to learn well. And if you can't see very well, you're not going to learn. Okay. Now, third thing I'm looking at is their teeth. Now, a lot of the dogs that get here are like in that stage of life where they're starting to teeth. And so when I look in here, I want to see how many teeth they've lost and how their permanent teeth are erupting. Okay. That's going to give me a little bit of an idea about how much trouble they're going to have with teething over the course of the next few weeks. And if any of you guys have ever been around a teething baby, you know that can be tough. Now, another thing that happens when they're teething is they'll have a tendency to chew things. And oftentimes when a dog first gets here, I'll find little splinters or things in their gums, and that'll be indicated by like a big, like deep red spot, you know, so we get that squared away. Then I take my hands and I just kind of run them down their spine. And what I'm doing here is I'm feeling, you know, kind of like how sturdy a dog is. That's an easy way to describe it. I push on them and I see if they feel strong. I put pressure back here and see, you know, if there's any pain in the lower back. And, you know, that's going to give me a lot of information about how hard I should let the dog play or if I should, like, curtail some of the dog's jumping and climbing. Now, this dog feels very sturdy. She's got a lot of good left to right balance. In other words, she's got good proprioception. Her mind-body synergy is exactly where it's supposed to be, so I don't anticipate any problems from that perspective. Then I move back here to her privates. Now, first thing I notice when I come back here to Minnie's privates is, like, the hair's kind of matted. Right? She's got really fine hair, and so if you don't keep that hair trimmed up around their anus and around their vulva, then like a little bit of pee and a little bit of poop will get matted in there, and again, that's something that can be very uncomfortable. It's hard to learn if you can't hear, it's hard to learn if you can't see, and it's definitely hard to learn if your privates hurt. Okay? Now, the kind of the next thing I do is I move from there to their belly. A lot of these young dogs that come here for training, they have little kids in the house, and oftentimes just little kids leave things on the floor and the dogs pick them up and eat them. And so I like to palpate their belly, really kind of get an idea of like if they have any discomfort in their belly, you know, that might come from having eaten a Lego block or you know, some crayons or just gotten in the trash, something like that. She's fine with that. Then I like to put my hands on their chest, just kind of get an idea for you know, how they're respirating. Is their chest well sprung? And this is just one of those things that if you kind of get around some dogs and you put your hands on them when they're at different exertion levels, you know, you'll kind of get an idea of what a dog that's got really powerful lungs feels like. And so she's really good there, okay? Then I go to these joints. What I'm looking for when I'm feeling their joints is any swelling or heat. If the joint's swollen, we're gonna have to look at that. If the joint's got heat on it, it's gonna be swollen later, right? And then I get down here between their toes. And that is especially important with a dog like Minnie, who has all this fine hair. Is like they'll come here and sometimes I'll find like a splinter here, or I'll find a rock that's matted in that hair, and then as they go to running around, because we do a lot of running around here, that splinter or that rock will cause a red spot, and then it'll get infected. Okay. So you'll kind of get an idea for dogs. If you have a stock coated dog like a lab, doesn't have any hair in their feet, they don't have too many troubles. But this dog, who starts off as a very healthy dog, just because she's got a lot of really fine hair, that traps moisture in her ear, it grows up in front of her eyes, it traps moisture and fecal matter around her private areas, and it traps foreign bodies in between her toes. So that's the kind of stuff I'm gonna have to look at, you know, every day, all month while she's here, and then when she goes home, you know, I'll make sure that her owner does it at least once a week, okay? And that's just, you know, that's just something that when you're researching dog training that you don't think about, and dog trainers don't usually think about it a lot. The main reason is that most dog trainers on YouTube, they're not really dog trainers. They don't own a dog kennel. They don't live with dogs 7 days a week where they're out doing, you know, a lot of hiking, a lot of boating, a lot of fishing, and things like that. And so they're just not always in tune with the relationship between physical health and mental health. But I'm here to tell you guys, when you're doing your dog training, like research, do not go down that rabbit hole of just chasing, you know, techniques. That technique collecting doesn't work, okay? Look at your dog, make sure it's healthy, get it out, allow it to have proper outlets for its energy, and then pick your obedience training system and stick to it. If I can keep these dogs healthy, then any obedience system that I apply with consistency and persistence it's gonna work great, right? And if they're not healthy, nothing's gonna work. All right, so tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you feel like this advice is valuable? If you do, I'll give you some more next week. All right, talk to y'all guys later. Very nice dogs. That's some very smart dogs.